I'm Vanessa Heywood, and I created Tiny Mite's music. I write original pop songs for children: jazz, salsa, rock and roll, disco, reggae songs, contemporary music with children's themes. I work in daycare nurseries, schools, holiday parks, and theatres with my programme. Before I began my business, I was a professional actress, singer and dancer, working on tour in theatres and in the West End, and having a very nice time of it, really. But music has always been a passion of mine. It's always been part of my life. To me, to write music is to be free and to feel joy. And that's what I want to transport to children along the lines of teaching them as well. And all the music that I've written for them is also linked to the early years foundation stage and key stage learning for preschool children and babies. My family are all musicians. There's 15 musicians in my family. And my father is a great role model for me. He's a trombonist, actually, who's worked with many different stars. But also he toured with Frank Sinatra and worked with him for a good 20 years. So my childhood was surrounded by these amazing creative people. And he was incredibly hardworking. And he taught me never to give up and to strive for perfection. He would practice in his room for 4 hours a day. And he used to say to me, you know, your dreams are like a road, and they're in front of you. And your goals and your dreams are where you're going. And you might look left, and you might look right, but that is where you're going. And don't forget where you're going. And that's something that stayed with me. And I think that's something that's helped me being an entrepreneur. So there I was, happily enjoying my career, when at age 25 I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Now this was a very, very difficult time in my life, obviously, and I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. You know, what was I going to do? But I continued working in theatre, and as luck would have it, I was working with children mainly. So I got some jobs that were all about children's theatre. And it gave me a fantastic insight to how children learn and how they accept performance. And unbeknownst to myself, this was going to really help me within my business later on. Then I got married, and I had my 2 lovely boys, my children. But unfortunately, when the boys were very young, my husband left us. So there I was, single parent, multiple sclerosis, and absolutely no money at all. And I was thinking to myself, I've got to do something. What am I going to do? And you know, I felt I was on the brink of ideas, but I just couldn't find what I was going to do. And then I went to a music group with my 2 little boys, and I was thinking, oh, music for children, this is going to be fantastic. I'm going to enter a world of imagination here. It's going to be amazing. But in actual fact, when I got there, it was just a bunch of mums sitting round on the floor, you know, going, the wheels on the bus go round and round. And while all the children were walking off and playing with toys in the corner. And I'm sitting there thinking, this isn't it. Music for children is supposed to be inspiring, entertaining. It's supposed to move them, teach them, connect with these people, these children. I can do better than that. That is what I can do. And it was at that moment that I decided to create a business. I went away. I was very serious about it. I did a business plan. It took me forever. And then I began to write. And I did really put my mind to writing these songs. And I wrote one song after another. And I was absolutely single-minded about it. And obviously I had to look after my children, and they were still very young. I had to look after the MS. You know, I haven't got the same share of energy as other people. I had to rest when my children were resting. I had to write when they were, you know, I had to stay up later and write when they were sleeping at night time. But anyway, I found my way around it because I was determined, and that's what I was going to do. And then at the same time as writing the songs, I created these little characters called Tiny Mites, and they sprung from stories that I told my children. And they were little characters. They were sort of fairies come children come insects, and they were all musical and members of a band. And they became an important part of the concept. They linked the songs together. They made, oh, there they are, and you know, the children absolutely loved them, and they all had different accents and brightly coloured clothing. And then I had to get the songs recorded, and so I didn't have any money. So I approached people that I knew in the business that I'd worked with and whom I knew. And I got a fantastic team of professional musicians together, and we all went in the studio, and luckily enough, they said to me, listen, pay us when you can, pay us when you've got the money. So, you know, the guy on the drums was Take That's drummer. The guy that's on guitar plays with Jules Holland's band. They were fantastically talented people. So the basis of my product was the absolute best that I could get. And then my first ever Tiny Mites music sessions were actually in the middle of a field. I didn't have the money to hire a hall, so I did my first sessions in the field, which went really, really well. I invited everybody I knew in the village where I live, all the mums that I knew and all their friends, and 40 of them turned up over the summer in 2005 every week to do Tiny Mites in the field. And my sister, who's a sound engineer, she helped me, you know, take all the props out, the puppets, the bubble machine and the instruments, and the sound system as well. This was a fantastic opportunity for me because it really made me realise I had a viable business here. You know, I was earning good money for just half an hour's work, and it gave me confidence to push on and expand my work. It also was a chance for me to hone my product and make sure this was working, you know, make sure I was connecting with these children, and that my product was actually working well. At the same time as I did this, I approached a daycare nursery near me, and I went in, and I actually arrived there and sort of with all my props and my puppets and my instruments, my bubble machine, and I was actually pushing, I had it all in my children's double buggy, so I looked a bit like a bag lady when I arrived at the door, and just sort of said to them, hey, do you fancy a free class? You know, I do music. And they said, okay. So I went in and taught 30 of their children. The manager came up to me afterwards and she said, God, I've never seen anything like that before. I absolutely love it. When can you start? So I was delighted, and I started next week. This particular nursery was a chain of nurseries. I approached all the others in the chain who also took me on. So I soon had so much work, I couldn't cope with it all on my own. So I began to build a team of people that would actually take my product a little bit further. Nowadays, I have, I'm with 80 different daycare nurseries, and I have a large team of girls that go out and do Tiny Mites music in lots of different places. And also last year, I was thinking about, you know, in 2009 actually, how the recession was affecting us, and you know, how I could exploit it really. And I was looking at how Tiny Mites is actually something that crosses the barrier between entertainment and education. You know, it really does bridge that gap. And so I started to look at holiday parks And I noticed how so many of us are actually staying at home for our holidays now and not going abroad and trying to pull in the purse strings. So I took Tiny Mite's music to Haven Holidays with my lovely PA, Xanthi, and we presented Tiny Mite's there. They absolutely loved it, and they took us on for all 36 of their holiday parks to do a special event show for Haven Holidays with Tiny Mite's music. So it was a brand new area that we were entering. And then last year, in 2010, I was lucky enough to win the Sclerosis Award for Disabled Entrepreneurs, which was such a thrill. You know, I'm absolutely delighted to be representing the Sclerosis Award this year. And you know, I've got lots of help with Sir Stelios and his Philanthropics Foundation, also in partnership with the Leonard Cheshire Disability. So it's going to be a very exciting year for me this year. What I'm working on is actually building a franchise. So within 6 months, the franchise will be ready. So if anyone's actually interested in a music franchise, please come and see me. And also, we're doing a show. We're doing Tiny Mites at the Seaside. And this is a show that I actually trialled in another holiday park, in Searles Holiday Park down in Hunstanton. And I did a 6-week run of this. It's a puppet show, a two-handed puppet show with these fantastic hand movement puppets for under 5s. And I actually went down there to see it. And I was queuing up at the door. And I was thinking, God, why is there this huge queue here? You know, what are they queuing for? Because it was pre-dinner entertainment. There was lots of other things going on. And then this little girl stood next to me, and I said to the woman, what are we queuing up for? She said, oh, it's this Tiny Mites thing. Haven't you seen it? And I was like, oh, that's me. You know, I was delighted with that. That was really wonderful. So, you know, here I am, with all of these business ideas and things going really well. But just to finish off, my father, you know, he's been such a big influence in me, in my life. And when I didn't know what to do, I said to him, God, you know, what am I going to do? And he said, do what you know. Do what you know and do what you love. And if you can do what you know and do what you love, you're halfway there. You really are. And obviously, you know, as our other entrepreneurs have said, it takes a lot of willpower, and it takes a lot of looking at that road in front of you and not looking sideways and being determined. But if you can choose what you know and love, that's such a big help, because I love music and I love inspiring these children. And if you can choose something like that, I'm sure you can succeed. If I can do it, you can do it. And thank you very much.